Hi everybody, it's Laura. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel. Today I have a layout that I made using the Shimmerz July Color Kits collection. I'm going to have half of the layout covered by a piece of pattern paper from the kit, and then the other half is going to be mixed media. I'm going to use one of the beautiful bright colored papers on the left, and then on the right I'm going to make kind of a lime green color. And to do that, I mixed together a yellow and a green color. I used a Coloringz called No Yolking and a Shimmerz called Evergreen. And those were mixed together on my little palette that you see on the right-hand side of the screen. And I'm adding that color to a piece of plastic using a paintbrush, and then I'm spreading it around the background. I know I'm going to be placing my large 4x6-inch photo right in the center of the page, so I thought that I would add the green in the places that I knew you would be able to see it and not add it to the area that I believe is going to be covered by the photo. When I'm picking out photos to go along with a particular collection, I always try to match the photos in some way to the collection. Sometimes I'm matching the subject, sometimes I'm matching the colors, and in this case I happened to find a photo that went along really well pretty much in every way with this kit. There were a lot of the same colors in this photo that were in the papers and embellishments and the paints of the July collection. And then even though the collection had a lot of strawberries, and strawberries aren't candy, I feel like there are a lot of strawberry flavored candies. So a lot of times when I see candy being advertised, they include pictures of fruit. So I thought it's a really good combination, and I was really happy to find that photo, and I think it's going to go along really well with the papers and embellishments of the collection. I continue to add layers of green to the background, and I add a bunch of splatters too. I added some splatters that were just a slightly darker shade of the lime green, so you'd be able to see them. And that's not something that I do a lot, and I kind of liked the way that that looked. The splatters were really noticeable because they were a little bit darker, and that's something that I really like. I love the look of splatters on pages. I used some gesso and I covered up a couple of little spots where the splatters went a little wild and there was some smudging, and I'll often use gesso to just fix up a couple of areas because even though I want kind of a messy mixed media background, I don't want to have areas that immediately draw your eye that I'm not too crazy about. So gesso is a really good way to cover up those little mistakes in the background. And here you can see I'm adding even more splatters. I'm using a small brush, so the splatters will be really small. And then after I added the splatters and allowed the background to dry, I decided that I would add some modeling paste too. I've been on a kick lately of adding a thick-bodied white acrylic paint to the modeling paste. And then on this layout, I also added some Heidi Swapp metallic texture paste, something I've had in my stash for a long time. And used on its own, it does have quite a metallic sheen to it, but I guess when I mixed it together with the modeling paste and the paint, some of that metallic look got lost. I'm using a Vicki Boutin stencil. It's a whole bunch of circles that are all approximately the same size. And in my mind, this pattern kind of went nicely with the candy theme. It's not super literal, but I think that these little circles in the background just added to the idea of having a fun layout. Now I'm going to be preparing the pattern papers that I'm going to include on the background of the layout. I have the yellow paper that's going to go on the left-hand side, and then I wanted to include a strip of paper going down the middle. So I inked the edges with whatever inks were left over on my yellow and pink daubers. And then I layered a slightly smaller stripe strip on top of a slightly larger pink strip of paper. And that's going to go in the center. I attach the yellow paper on the left, and then I'm going to attach the strip of paper. And I'm trying to make sure that it's nice and straight right from the beginning so I don't have to fix it later on, which is something I used to do all the time when I realized that I put elements on the page and they were crooked. Here is my photo. I have it mounted on some white cardstock, and then I mounted again on some pink pattern paper. Then I added a piece of thick white cardstock to the back of the photo cluster. although I usually add that when I want to pop up the photo on some foam, but on this particular layout, I didn't pop up the photo, so I must have just been planning to do that. And then I cut a piece of white cardstock that's only a hair larger than the pink pattern paper that I already have my photo mounted on, because I wanted to add a dark pink border. So I just added a little bit of dark pink around the edges of this piece of cardstock, and that will be enough to cover the entire area that will be visible. The title of my layout is going to be Sweet. And I bought these letters that have a resist on them. I got them at the dollar store. And so they're perfect for using with these paints, because when I paint on the letters, the whole letter will turn pink except for those little dots. And they don't stay totally white, but they stay basically white, definitely lighter than the rest of the letter. And it creates, I think, kind of a cool effect. And I'm using all of the different colors of pink that were in the July kit, and the only other color that I'm using with those colors is a color that's a little bit of a darker pink, almost a red, and that's a Shimmerz called Buddy's Favorite Color. I wait for the paint to dry, and then I go back and I add another layer of color, and I do that both to the mat and to the layers. And the second coat makes the color a little bit darker, and then it also covers up any imperfections or brush strokes that I don't want visible on my layout. I went back to those letters, and the letters looked nicer and nicer with each application of color, and I used a couple of different colors of pink on the letters, and I think that they ended up looking so pretty. There's something about these Shimmerz paints, they just make everything look gorgeous. And the color scheme of the pink against the yellow, I just really love the way that that turned out. After I added a couple of layers of different shades of pink to the letters, I was ready to attach the dark pink mat down to the photo. And even though it's a really thin mat, you can only see a little bit of that darker color, I think it really helps the photo to stand out on the layout. Now I'm adding some ATG adhesive to the back of my photo, and as I mentioned before, I'm going to put it right smack in the middle of the page, and once again I'm using my T-square to make sure that I have it straight. I added those letters right away because I didn't want to forget about my title, and I always think that if possible, it's great to add the title at the beginning, because sometimes I will create the rest of the layout and kind of forget to leave a space for it. These letters had backs that you had to peel off, and then I stuck them down on the top of the photo, and I was really happy with this beautiful color scheme. I love the yellow and the green and the pink together, and as I had mentioned earlier, I think that these colors went along really well with the photo. And you can see here I'm making some little minor adjustments to the placement of the letters to make sure that they're evenly spaced. Now I'm going to add a whole bunch of embellishments. I have a tag in the upper left-hand corner, and then I thought to balance it out, I would add a frame in the lower right-hand corner. I have the frame on the layout through the majority of my process, but then at the very end I took it off because I thought that it was just a little bit too heavy for that corner. But for right now, I'm leaving it there. And then on top of the tag, I layered a strawberry wreath and also a banner that says "Today is all about fun." That was a perfect sentiment for this layout. And then there was a lemon tree in a pot, and so I have that on the right-hand side of the layout. And there is a pink and white banner that I put underneath the photo. I love banners. I think they're like my favorite embellishment, although I'll probably say that about a few other things too, but I do really love banners. Something about having them underneath a photo. I just think that it's such a great little touch. And on this layout, I think that the banner was perfect because it added a little bit of fun and it went along well with the front of the store. I added a pink heart to the right of the title and some arrows to the left of the photo. And now I'm adding a whole bunch of strawberries. These strawberries were on the cut and color sheet that came in the kit this month, and I really enjoyed using my Shimmerz paints and painting all of them in. And I fussy cut them out, and I included most of the strawberries, not all of them, but most of them on this layout. And all of the ephemera pieces come with a white border, and I wanted to keep the white border, but I wanted to make it just a little bit thinner, so I fussy cut a little bit of the border off of some of the die cut pieces. And then I once again, used my daubers that have some ink on them. I didn't dip them in any more ink, and I inked the edges of some of the pieces that are on the layout. And I only inked the edges of the embellishments that don't have a white border. Now I feel happy with the composition that I have here, and I begin to attach all of the elements down. I use some ATG adhesive, and I just rotate around the page, picking up each of the embellishments and adding some adhesive to the back of them. Usually, if I pop up anything on the layout, it's the photo. But on this particular layout, I decided to pop up a few of the other embellishments, but didn't give any dimension to the photo. And I'm not really sure why I did it this way on this layout, but it ended up working out just fine. One of the pieces that I pop up is this lemon tree. And these ephemera pieces are printed on some nice quality paper, but because I'm popping it up on some foam, I wanted to make sure that it was very sturdy, because sometimes elements can bend a little bit if they're popped up on foam. So that's something that I like to do to all of the embellishments that I add foam to, or not all of them, but generally that's what I do. I don't want to say always, because I tend to switch things up and do things a little differently depending on the layout. We received 3 epoxy dots that are coordinated with the collection in each of the kits, and I love incorporating them on the pages. This really cute daisy was on a dot that had a green background, and I thought that it would look nice right on top of the title. So I placed it at the top of the page, and it looks a little lonely right now, but I'm going to give it a friend in a little bit. I wanted to cut a little bit of the border off of the strawberry wreath. So once again, I fussy cut that white border, not off of it, but just down a little bit. And once I had fussy cut off a little bit of the edge, both on the outside and the inside of the wreath, I placed it back where I had it on the left-hand side of the layout. And now I'm adding even more strawberries to the page. There were 2 tiny strawberries. I decided to put one on either side of the banner. And then there was one that was a little bit larger, and I thought that would look nice at the top with the flower that I have there. And now I'm adding a couple of enamel dots to the layout. I had some Queen & Company enamel dots that are striped. I've had those in my stash forever. So to go along with that candy theme, I added one of those to the center of the heart. Then I added some small green enamel dots in between each of the sections of the banner. I added a white bow on top of the tag, and this is where I decided I wanted to remove the frame from the lower right-hand side of the layout. So then I had to reposition a couple of the embellishments that I had there. When you place an order with Shimmerz Paints, if you use my name in the comments, you'll receive a free gift. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it and maybe got a little bit of inspiration or perhaps an idea or two. And as always, in the description box, you'll find a link to the Shimmerz website. You can check out all of their beautiful paints and the July Color Kitz collection. If you're interested, there's a direct link to the kit. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I hope to see you all again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.